Hey, you guys. So, making this connection between something Ezekiel saw when he was in Babylon during the Babylonian captivity of 70 years. He is taken in the spirit to Jerusalem and essentially shown, hey, these are some terrible things going on that I want to clean in my own people. And jump forward a good while, and some of his friends are, through the edict of King Cyrus, brought back to Jerusalem, back to the homeland, to begin the building of the second temple. And in Zechariah chapter 6, he's told to take silver and gold and create some crowns and put these crowns upon, uh, 5 of the people that were in the Judaic priesthood. And that's what I saw in the spirit. There's actually several people that have been following along some of my videos, and I sensed in the spirit a connection between some of the concepts I teach and it's coming to light in your lives, and you being crowned with some of the things you've gotten from it. It's sort of and I just want to acknowledge that I sense that in the spirit. There's a handful of people that are really walking in, or even in the next weeks, in the next month or so, you're going to notice a positive alteration that has taken place in your being, and that's called being crowned, meaning there are elements of light and of love and of joy and healthier perspective that you've been crowned with. And so that's what I saw earlier, that from Ezekiel, his experience with, here are some things I want to clean in Jerusalem, all the way to some of the captives returning and being crowned. It wasn't like you've recreated the temple, let me crown you. It was, you've returned, you've gone from point A to point B, and the crowning is not so much because of that, it's because of what you're about to do. Yeah. So just going with that theme right now, the empowerment comes from sincerity. Sincerity is the alpha, the beginning stage. An earnest spirit, no matter how different we are doctrinally, where we're at in life, what kind of people we are, how we view things, no matter how incredibly different we are, sincerity is the bond. Sincerity is the tribe. Sincerity is the thing that causes our eyes to meet and say, I know you, for I have been you. No matter how different we are. And that's the crowning moment of Zechariah 6. In our own lives, there's a sincerity that bursts us out of an old pattern in Babylon and back to the homeland in Jerusalem to just begin a new beginning. And I could go into the concept of the rebuilding of the second temple and how the glory never did come. But that's a part of it also, because if we reconstruct the same thing with different verbiage and different wording, the same thing that we once destroyed, in Galatians it says, Paul is writing to people who had started to change, had started to leave the Mosaic law for the grace reality of Christ, but then started going back to animal sacrifice and started going back to mixing some of law and grace. As we see in Acts 21:21, the Apostle James was one of those people. And so Paul says, if I build again those things that I destroyed, I am found a sinner. So, in other words, the glory is not coming for in the second temple, because we have to build something new. So the crowning is such that after deconstructing from some things, the tendency is to reconstruct the same thing in different wording, with different language, with different ideas, which feels new, and we eventually catch on that's we're in the same place we were, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's not a waste of time at all. It's the ultimate realization of how to go to the next world. It's like I've tried it the one stream way, with one sect being so-called married to one interpretation of Christ through this one sect, and then I tried it when I destroyed that because it was toxic, and I rebuilt a more universalist approach, coagulated the religions, namaste. I honor the holy in you as you do what I do in a different religion. But I rebuilt that and found it to be the same thing. So we bust out of that into an entirely new world. Moses to Jesus, Jesus to equality, as I've been. Those are three different aeons. Those are three different worlds. An aeon is not a time frame as much as it is a world with a specific mindset that produces a specific kind of fruit. And as I pointed out in other videos, Sonship Dominion, the side effect was all these holy wars and the 50,000 people killed in the European witch burnings. Our own Salem witch trials are nothing in comparison to the 50,000, or some say more like 30,000 people. Columbus killing 12 million in the name of Christianity. That's twice as many as Hitler killed. So Sonship Dominion has to go away because it rebuilt the temple in a way that some people, their chest kind of puffs up a little when they see a Columbus statue, you know, because the murder of 12 million brown people in the name of Christianity did quantumly fuse racism with Christianity in a way that there's no undoing that. And so white people in America are just going to get offended more and more and more and more. So the only answer is that there have to be people who are willing to speak into the atmospheric reality through social media, because that's what everybody's reading. Nobody's reading a newspaper. Through social media, we are speaking as led, of course, checking our hearts to make sure we're not just returning anger for anger, but speaking the dissolving of the religions that cause Sonship Dominion on its good end to make some formerly toxic people more loving, but on its side effect end, it created my religion is better than yours. It caused the most sincere of us to fast and pray for several years until we got over our own issues, and then we would fast and pray for the next 20, 30, 40 years to overcome other people, overcome other people's thinking, overcome other nations' thinking, replace their culture with our culture. That's cultural murder, colonialism, and wonder why the world is in shambles, because Sonship Dominion was only a little upgrade from the Mosaic Law. Animal sacrifice was everywhere, not just in the Judaic world. Animal sacrifice was everywhere. The world collectively, as one man, as one mankind, left animal sacrifice in all nations by 200 AD, for the most part. Went into ascension, and whatever we do in the inner temple, we do in the collective society. So we made heavenly realities to dominate over earthly realities. And I remember in the 80s, I was on fire for Jesus, but I kept hearing about parents neglecting, on fire Christian parents, on fire for Jesus, having very dysfunctional children because they would neglect them, because the parents would just go into 5-6 hours of prayer every night, not tending to the kids. They thought, well, if the spirit is in our home's atmosphere, then the spirit will take care of the kids, and that's just not how it works. New Age people did stuff like that. We left life. We left what we call the evil inverse matrix, when it's really the kingdom coming earth, as we'll finally realize. So we went from low vibrational animal sacrifice. The animal stands in between us and God because we don't think we're worthy. We are doing each other wrong, and if we're doing each other wrong, then an animal slit its throat. That stands between us and God. Now we can have blessed crops and blessed families. Then we said, well, no, that's not right. Our eyes are starting to see a little more clearly now. We see through a dark mirror, a glass dimly. Did I get that right? Now we see through a dark glass, a dim mirror. And from animal sacrifice to samadhi in Buddhism, walking in the third heaven reality in Christianity, being caught up to a Pleiadian glory in New Age, we sort of saw it a little more clearly than the animal sacrifice. It was no longer, we said, okay, no more animal sacrifice. soul sacrifice. We'll sacrifice the self, Romans 12:1, on the altar of the higher self. This lower self sacrificed, or at least submitted. One hemisphere of the brain submitted to the other. Division in the name of oneness. Just like the Pharisees were fighting Jesus in the name of God. It was for their God that they went to Rome to get Jesus killed. It was for their it was for the intense love they had for God that they had Stephen killed. Because the Jesus movement was manifesting a God form that was different than the one they knew. And that's what happens from sonship dominion to equality. So we blaspheme the hell out of Obama because we think it's evil. For the same reason the Pharisees blasphemed Jesus, we blaspheme Obama, the express image in this time and generation of the new Christ activation equality, BLM, MLK, etc. Some people need a Malcolm X message to wake up. Some people need an MLK message. Some people need education through people like Sherry Paulus, Steve Slocum, many others, Kimberly Perota. However it comes, in whatever way it comes, it's unstoppable because it's coming from a release from a higher heavenly dimension than the sonship dominion. The sonship, law of attraction, dispensa, that's all the same thing. It's identifying with the higher realms and unidentifying with the what we thought was bad, the feminine energy. Paul said it with such articulation in 2 Corinthians 5, the earthly house of this tabernacle. Remember, there's an earthly house, our physical body, and then there's a heavenly house in the same in our tabernacle. There's an earthly house and a heavenly house. We're made of matter and spirit. And Paul said it in 2 Corinthians 5. We know that if the earthly house, self-consciousness, were dissolved, dissolve it, throw it away. Oh, the ignorance. God. I mean, no wonder he called his former iteration of God dung. In Philippians 3, he called it dung. And I call my former iteration dung. I relate to Paul in that way. Even though it was gold at the time. The Pharisees had spiritual gold because they were the zenith and the final manifestation of the glorious Moses. But it becomes dung when it's time to move on to the next thing. And if you don't see it with that level of angst, then you will always have a soul tied to it, and you'll never get to the next place. But yeah, 2 Corinthians 5. And if I'm getting the reference wrong, I'll correct where this is actually at. But I think that's the chapter. We know that if the earthly house of this tabernacle were dissolved, we have a building of God, eternal in the heavens, not made with hands. In this we groan. Remember in Romans 8, we groan. There are no words for it because the groan is that deep from a deep place. We groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed upon with our house from heaven. So that correlates again, as I've mentioned in past videos. That correlates to the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas, which scholarship has concluded that the actual disciple, apostle Thomas did write this. And in Thomas 1:14, Jesus says, I'm going to take the women and make them become men. In other words, the earthly, the feminine energy is the earthly. The first man is of the earth, earthy. The second man is the Lord from heaven, as Paul wrote. That's all that meant. I'm going to take your, reach down and cause a rapture to happen internally. All of your earthly things are going to serve the heavenly things within you. And holy war is the result within, and holy war is the result in society. Because those earthly things were not made, the Creator. Now the Christian God, he wants that, because it's a patriarchal, misogynistic God. But the Creator did not want that. That was just what we thought at the time. Just like the Creator, King David tapped into the Creator just for a brief moment. And he writes, God, God, you don't even want animal sacrifice. It's a contrite heart. See, he was tapping into the Jesus age 1,100 years before the time. It's a contrite heart that is the proper sacrifice, not these animals, but he couldn't change it because it wasn't time yet. And then the contrite heart becomes the sacrifice per Romans 12:1. Offer yourselves a living sacrifice. A broken heart, you will not despise, as what King David said, as the sacrifice. Sacrificing all of our, difficult emotions on the altar of positivity is identical to 2 Corinthians 5. If the earthly house of this tabernacle were dissolved, we have then, I like to say, we become instantly aware of something that was there all along, which is the heavenly house. And we groan to earnestly desiring to be clothed or cloaked. The cloaking happens in the ascension phase of our lives. The cloaking of you're constantly, perpetually, 24/7 aware of the movements and currents and goings on of the heavenly dimension. What heavenly dimension? The Buddhist, the Hindu, if you have a Christian background, the Christian heavenly dimension. There's many heavenly dimensions that all kind of coincide during the age of Pisces, just like there were many heavenly dimensions, polytheism, shamanism, monotheism, all working in tandem on planet Earth during the age of Aries, where everybody was into animal sacrifice. Then we all changed to various heavenly dimensions, many mansions in my Father's house, many different ways of doing it, but all kind of collectively doing the same thing together. So you're cloaked or clothed with your heavenly house in the age of Pisces, and then in the age of Aquarius, all of it's consciousness. I mean, do you think that consciousness was not primarily what they were in the age of King Saul? The company of prophets were prophesying. They had such a cloaking of the heavenly house when they were prophesying that King Saul got within 10 feet of these people and he started prophesying. And the prophet Samuel had told him, well, you're going to go to the company of prophets and you'll become another man. Now, when you become another man, when you become a new person, through the anointing, the built-up, fortified cloaking or anointing on someone else from somebody else's heavenly house that they've become aware of, that is a fleeting and very temporary newness, although it is a kind of newness. King Saul and all his pride and hate, absolute jealous hate towards King David, he still prophesied accurately by the anointing. So consciousness has always been. So we can't say the age of Aquarius is going to be consciousness, because there's never been an age of mankind where consciousness was. They just had animal sacrificial consciousness as the thing that activated their heavenly house. Then we had self-sacrifice consciousness in the age of Pisces, or the Jesus age. That is the rules and the laws that caused the heavenly house to activate. And now the consciousness will be equality. So from law to sonship to equality. Now the consciousness will be equality consciousness, or what I call Lilithian consciousness. Lilith is the dark feminine that utters the new name of God, and this time will not be demonized and sent away, abandoned, sent away. Odin of Cluny, the great church father, reformer, said to embrace a woman is to embrace a sack of manure. Don't give a Torah to a woman. You'd rather burn the Torah than to give it to a woman. I think it was in France, they had a church council meeting to decide whether women had souls or not. So, if you're part of that patriarchal spirit, you're going to instantly come up with the exceptions to the rule, and say, no, it's not true. See. There will always be exceptions to the rule. But the rule still remains that the patriarchal age was the patriarchal age. That's how people thought. We demonized our own feminine energy, so that the soulish realm did have to yield constantly to the spirit, the more ethereal part of us. But the more ethereal part of us is the weaker part of us, because it's not as tangible. The ethereal part of us is not the legal citizen of the planet. It's the body, the physical body, the soul realm, where the emotions are that have the potential for the rainbow, the multidimensional bliss and ecstasy, and also the potential for depression and suicidal feelings. So it's a huge, vast void of potentiality that we dip into and create from there. The soul, which is the emotional intelligence in us that is most invested in our human body, that is the ordained manager of the earth. That is the legal citizen who can make decisions. The ethereal part of us, the higher self, the spirit, that's the part of us that was the ordained manager of the discarnate heavenly state before there was a planet Earth. So you can't, like if a foot doctor came and helped out a brain surgeon, the brain surgeon would be the one doing the work, the foot doctor would be there to learn. See, if he's starting a new program of wanting to become a brain surgeon. So the ethereal part of us is on the subtle plane. The subtle plane cannot affect the tangible movements of sociality in Earth the way that the human self, the soulish realm can. But the ethereal is here to learn from the feminine energy. The masculine blueprint is here to learn from the feminine energy for the first time, because all this time, 250,000 years of the current human being, Homo sapien, has been primarily, and if there was a matriarchal age at the beginning, which was more relational, then great. I don't see a lot of scholarship that has absolute proof of what that looked like. So we can surmise that it was more relational, and then the patriarchal age took over and it was more acquisitional. It was more about owning things, dominating things, killing things. It was more, the sense of self became more arrogant. In the matriarchal or feminine dominant age, the ego, which is the sense of self, was more loving. So the ego was loving, and then the ego became arrogant, and that's why everybody thinks they're supposed to kill their ego. So if we would go back to the balance, not one dominant, not the feminine dominant, not the masculine blueprint dominant, but if we go into, for the first time ever, the ethereal compartment beginning to learn. Remember, the scripture says, let him dwell with the woman, what? According to knowledge. According to knowledge. So the part of us that never did learn earth and always demanded the earthy part learn the spirit, which has a certain glory, which has a certain benefit. But for the first time ever, the heavenly blueprint will now, the pattern will now learn how to conjoin, how to get married to the 5 virgins that have oil, that have been learning, that have been claiming their humanity and critical thinking skills, and they didn't leave their brain at the door when they walked into church to get filled with superstition. The 5 foolish virgins did not have oil in their lamps, and when it came time for that conjoining, that marriage to happen between spirit and flesh, it's the ones that had oil in their lamps that actually experienced it. So the 5 elements, so the earth is our physical body, air is the thought realm, fire is passionate change that we make, of changing lead to gold in the 7 steps of alchemy. Change, fire is change, and change is the constant eternal. That's what will always happen throughout eternity, is constant change. If something is stagnant, it's putrid. And that's the point of the Egyptian god Set. When he sees Osiris being stagnant, arrogant, stasis, boom, that's when he comes in and kills him, puts him in the underworld, so that the Horus cycle would have to kick in. And that's the new version of Osiris through his son, which is equally the wisdom goddess Isis and Osiris. Osiris and Isis were married, and they gave birth to Horus. And Horus was the healthier iteration of his father Osiris. And Osiris has to communicate from the underworld. Yeah. Tracking with me? Okay. So, Earth, okay, our body, the intelligence and the wisdom and the ecstasy and pain of the body. Fire is constant change. The earth, the heavenly dimension passes away with a great noise, says the Epistle of Peter. And the earthly elements, the stasis, the way, the usual way, the societal imposition, church imposition, spiritual community has imposed these ideas, and we've manifested in our persona being earth also. The way we come across to people is earth, because it's the place of human to human conversation. And it said that the earthly elements would be burned away with great heat. Now, there's many elements of fire, so Song of Solomon is my favorite version. The love of God, in the Song of Solomon, the love of God is a fiery flame of, that it burns away what hinders us from the next change that we need to experience. Fire, so air is the thought realm, water is cleansing. Consciousness is everything. All of this, your consciousness is your awareness. Okay, your awareness, your focus. By the way, we focus on change, and sometimes change involves focusing on the problem. I want you to stop and think for a minute. Think about a 70-year-old brain surgeon. He's been focusing on the problem of brain cancer his whole life, but guess what? Is his brain full of cancer? No, he's focused on the problem so he could remove the problem, so he could defeat the problem and get those tumors out of the brain. So Dispenza would say, well, his brain by now should be full of cancerous tumors because he's focused on it, and he sent out an emotional currency into the universe that says, I want more brain tumors, I want more cancer, more cancer, more cancer. Nah, you don't apply it to that, do you? You'd go to a brain surgeon if you needed to. You'd pay him to focus on the problem. So you don't apply it to yourself. When you have a problem at work, you deal with it. You focus on the problem so that you can change things at work. You don't apply it to yourself. You just don't apply it to black, brown, and gay people because you're scared shitless of equality. You just apply it to don't you focus on equality. You're sending to the universe that you want more racism. See, and I think it's unconscious. I think it's a subconscious thing in white America where they come up with these fucked up doctrines to keep things imbalanced because that's the usual way. But the fire comes now in your lives and removes the hindrance. So if we take inventory, well, we've been taking inventory. Now the fire is going to do now the fire of God, the fire of the higher self, that element's going to remove the hindrance so that our spirituality quotes, if you focus on you fight, you ignite what you fight. How come you went to get your a knee replacement then? If you fight what you ignite, shouldn't your knees be terrible and your whole family has knee problems now if you got a knee replacement? Because you focused on the knee pain. So according to Dispenza, you should be 10 times worse knee pain now than ever. Because you know goddamn well that's not how it works, and he's lying to you. It's only devised for black, brown, and gay people to shut them the fuck up. And until you come to grips with that demon that started it through William Paley for eugenics, Hitler worship, Nazi worship, created the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, the Nordic aliens, created that reality on this earth for white supremacy, and that was the entire point of all of the New Age gurus that the current Jay-Z Knight types are built on. And I was born with a fire to destroy that out of the heavenly dimension. Now the fire is, and I'm trusting the fire. I can sense it happening as we speak. The fire is It has no enemies because it's that powerful. It's not a fire that says, well, I have no enemies because I'm just going to make peace with the serial killers. I'm going to make peace with white supremacists. I'm going to make peace with people who want the classism imbalance to continue. No, it's a fire that has peace because it has no enemies, because it's that powerful, because it knows where it's coming from, is that it's unstoppable. Neutrality is taking the side for the oppressor. If things are imbalanced, then silence is the empowering of the continuation of that imbalance. Using your Elohim power to speak change is the fire properties to create change to where things will be equalized. And then everybody on the planet can start bringing their gold to the table, and their best efforts to their contribution will be visible instead of invisible, like some extremists across the pond want, and some people here want. And so, but I can't get away from it. I can actually feel it's so, the fire that's going forth through the camera right now is so peaceful, because it's like a painless haircut. It's just instantly removing all these screwed up ideologies that kept white people in a place of being set up to be overtaken by their own overtake. Colonialism is a hostile, murderous overtake, and it has a reaping season that is equally horrific. And this fire can stop that. But you have to be willing to see yourself in the mirror and how you really believe about your fellow human beings that are black, brown, gay, Chinese, etc. You have to be willing to see it. But see, you know what? Again, this thing that's happening through the camera right now is 100% peace. And it's peace because it's so powerful. So that what the law of Moses could not do, in that it was weak, grace could do much more powerfully, in that it was much stronger. And now I'm saying the same thing in this 2,000-year period, is what grace could not do, in that it was weak, equality will now do, the fire of equality will now do, in that it's much stronger. Thank you guys for listening. I know you hear me, and I see this fire going through to burn away the hindrance, so that people will actually experience unity, not through the pretend version where you just think it in your mind, but the reality version. And the puzzle pieces of unity throughout this world will start. Puzzle piece by puzzle piece will start coming together and joining hands and joining hearts and celebrating people that are like you and people that are different from yourself. And that's the upward arc that we're on right now. That is the rock of the coming time. That is the strength. It's a beautiful current, like a river, a powerful river just came through. Oh my God. Know the truth, and the truth will make you free. Oh, I'm just basking in this. Whew. Thank you. And in color, it's kind of a violet, like an amethyst front, like a cloud. And what education couldn't do, when the mind could kind of see where we needed to go, but just too much strongholds in the soul, so we couldn't do it. This amethyst spiritual river or psychic cloud or front coming through is going to just make the unity just happen in the power realm, in the miracle dimension. I know the spiritually sensitive ones can feel that coming through. Just discern it. That's all, discern it, ask it what it, ask that realm coming through. Um, or I was going to say ask it what its purpose is in your life, or not. Just absorb. Some things are too profound for words. I love you guys. Thank you for taking a listen, for daring to take a listen, for dipping your toe in this river coming through, and never asking anyone to not be who they are. But if your higher self, if a nudge brought you to my channel, there's something in you that also knows how to appropriate for you. Might look different from me, but to appropriate it for your life and family.